Welcome to part 3 of the Claire square. Claire is the feature square of season 2 of the Wrapped in Chemical, and we are now in part 3 in round 36. Of course you would have to have made parts 1 and part 2 in order to be able to participate in part 3 here, and you can find the links in the description. So to continue with part 3, in round 36 we make one chain first, and then now we're going to set up the front post DC corner. In order to do that, we make a single crochet into the corner space as we usually do, then one chain. Now we're going to work a front post treble into the same corner space in which we worked the puff stitches in the last round. So you see between those puff stitches, here's the corner, here's the space, and we're working around that chain 2 space that we made there. And now we're going to chain one more and a single crochet in the same corner space, not as the treble but as the first single crochet that we made. From here we continue and we work a single crochet in the next stitch and one more single crochet into the outer loop of the puff stitch. Remember that the puff stitch seems to have two sets of loops, and we work into the outer loop. So now you see we've marked, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, there are those 3 front loops, and we're going to work into these front loops here. Our combination DC back loop DC. So the DC goes into the front loop, which is belongs to the stitch 2 rounds below. Then we work a single crochet in the back loop only in the current round here, or 1 round below, and then another DC into the front loop of the stitch 2 rounds below, and that's it. So we skip the stitches behind the double crochets, then another single crochet, and then we repeat the same thing. We do that 3 times. So single crochet and then the DC back loop DC combination. So the DC, skip the stitch behind the DC, single and back loop only, and another DC in this same front loop here. Then another single crochet, that's the 3rd repeat. We're going to work into the front loop, the DC, double crochet, single crochet in the back loop only, and a double crochet again in that same front loop. Skip the stitch behind the double crochet, and from here we work 1 single crochet and then a double front post double treble around this stitch here. So work around that, and remember we always skip the stitch behind the special stitch unless we work around it or it is like a spike or split spike, because then we also work around that. So if we want to avoid unwanted increases, we need to skip the stitch behind those special stitches. Then 2 single crochet after that front post double treble, and now again we have a double crochet DC back loop DC combination. So we work the double crochet into the front loop that is between those double crochets here, another single in the back loop only, and another double crochet into the same front loop in which we just worked. You see it's summer here. I've got a lot of cat hair wherever I go. I wanted to show you just quickly before I forget. You see I've blocked the part here. I've blocked the square because it was quite wobbly, and blocking, I'm not sure where you can see it properly, totally got rid of all the wobbling, and the square is lying completely flat now. really easy to do it with the yarn I'm using, which is the Bendigo woolen meal yarn, and it's the pure wool. It's wonderful to work with, and it's super great to block too. So sorry for the interruption, just needed to let you know. Okay, so here we are. We worked a double crochet, single in back loop, double crochet. We skipped the stitches behind those special stitches again. Now we make 4 single crochet. So we keep this stitch marker in if you have one. I do suggest to put one in. It's easier to work into the stitch later, to find it and work into it. But you see, we skipped the stitch behind this 2 together in the previous round, and we're going to work from behind double crochet into those top loops of the stitch that we skipped. And then it's 19 single crochet. So you see, I've made 19 single crochet, and that should bring you just before this 2 together stitch here, behind which we again make a double crochet in behind and below. So we're working in the loops of the stitch that we skipped earlier, DCBB. Then we skip the stitch in front, and then another 4 single crochet. And we work our DC back loop DC combination. So the DCs go into this front loop that may or may not be marked with a stitch marker, then skip the stitch behind, single in back loop only in the next stitch, and then again work a DC in the same front loop and skip the stitch behind the DC. Work 2 single crochet, then the front post double treble around this stitch here. That's it. Skip the stitch behind the front post double treble, 1 single, and again our DC back loop DC combination. Then DC, skip the stitch behind the DC, single in back loop only of the next stitch, another double crochet in the same front loop. Then we skip the stitch behind the double crochet. We work a single crochet in the next stitch, and we repeat again. DC, back loop only, DC, another single, DC, back loop only, DC. Now we finish with 2 single crochet, and the first of those goes now again in the outer loop of the puff stitch, and we skip the inner loop and we work the second of those last 2 single crochets into the single crochet of the previous corner. And then let me just go through the corner again with you one more time. Single crochet in the corner space around the chain 2, yeah, chain 1, treble around the chain 2 space here where we made the puff stitches, treble, another chain, and another single crochet in the same corner where we worked the first single crochet, and that's it. Very easy. That's your round 1, that's your side 1 of round 36. So for stitch markers, if you want to use them, we can place some stitch markers into the new 3 front loops here. So we made single crochet in the back loop only, which leaves this 3 front loop between those double crochets 3 times, 1, 2 and 3. And we do the same on the other side as well. And you can do that later. And then another between those double crochet here. So for example, if you want to work with 2 colors, I'm using 2 different colors for those 3 front loops here, because if I was to work with different colors, this is a different stitch than this one. This is the grassy stitch, a bit like rye or something like that, or wheat. And this one is going to be the small rose. So I'm just using different stitch markers to make sure that, yeah, I remember to change my yarn, for example, which I don't do in this video, but I may in another one. So that is a little reminder for me to change color. So we can do the same here. I'm going to place one here, and then these ones go in these 3 front loops. To complete the round, we just repeat that on the other 3 sides, and then close with a slip stitch into the single crochet now. Yeah, and the single crochet. Okay. And then we meet again for round 37. We are now in round 37. So we start the round with a chain 1, and then our first stitch is a single crochet into that chain 1 corner space, then a chain 1, and our next stitch is part of that FPDC corner, the front post double crochet corner. So we yarn over for a double crochet, and then we make a front post double crochet around that treble from the previous round. Very simple. Then another chain 1, and we've got that chain 1 space after the treble from the previous round, and into that we work the second single crochet for this corner. So the corner is single crochet, chain 1, front post DC, chain 1, single crochet, and that's all part of that front post DC corner. And that's actually also all that there is to it. So our next stitch is a single crochet in the back loop only, and now we're going to work a front post treble 0 minus 3. So, and as always with trebles and double trebles, if you work with a very loose tension in your crochet, then a treble may be enough, or if you're very generous with, pulling the yarn through. If you have a very tight crochet tension, then maybe you prefer to do a double treble, and you can always just exchange those. Just make it work for your yarn. So I'm going in the same corner space in which I already made this treble in the previous round, and where we also have those puff stitches. So that is here. And then it's very important to skip the stitch behind this treble. Okay, so the next stitch is a single crochet, actually 2 single crochet, and then we're working the small rows. And the small rows, we had that before, is very similar to a popcorn stitch. We just have the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same front loop, and you Notice that I had marked this front loop with a stitch marker, but if you haven't, that is a front loop that is a little bit hidden by those 2 double crochets that we made in the previous round. Okay, so we have 1 double crochet, a chain 1, another double crochet, a chain 1, and a 3rd double crochet, and they all go, those double crochets all go in the same front loop. And we can then take this one out, we won't need it anymore in here. Then I pull up the loop, I let the hook go from this loop, and I insert it in the top loops of the first of those 3 DCs that we made, and then close it a little bit and then pull it through, and I'm closing the stitch with a chain 1. Okay, then it's very important again to skip the stitch behind this small rows. We always skip the stitch behind the special stitch. Then we've got 3 single crochet here, and then again we work the small rows, double in this free front loop, which may or may not be marked with a stitch marker, chain 1, a 2nd double crochet in the same front loop, chain 1, and a 3rd double crochet also in the same front loop. Then pull up the loop, insert the hook in the first double crochet, pull through, close with a chain, skip the stitch behind, 3 single crochet, and a 3rd time double crochet in this free front loop, chain 1, a 2nd double crochet in the free front loop, chain 1, and a 3rd double crochet in this free front loop, pull up the loop, insert the hook in the first, pull through, close with a chain. And I'm taking those stitch markers out as I go here. Now we're working 5 single crochet, and then we have our DC single combination, DC single DC combination. So the DC goes into this marked front loop. I'm going to leave the stitch marker in this time because we will be working into the stitch again. Then skip the stitch behind the DC. In the next stitch we'll make a single crochet through both loops, and then another double crochet in the same front loop, and skip the stitch behind the double crochet. Now we're working 6 single crochet, and 6, and now we work a butt stitch or rosebud. So I'm making the first single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch, and I mark the 3rd loop of this first single crochet that I just made with a stitch marker. It's easier, so much easier to find this 3rd loop later on. And I make 2 more single crochet in the back loop only of the same stitch. I find the front loop, turn my work. Now I'm going to make 4 single crochet in the front loop of the same stitch that I worked those 3 in the back loop only. And then I continue to turn my work, and now the front is facing me again. And I'm going to just pull a little bit on this stitch marker to make it easier for me to insert my hook in the 3rd loop, and I slip stitch into this 3rd loop. Now I need to find the next stitch, which is here, and starting from this I make 3 single crochet and another butt. So I do the same thing again, single crochet in the back loop only, and then I place a stitch marker in the 3rd loop of this first single crochet that I made. 2 more single crochet, finding the front loop, turning my work, 4 single crochet in this front loop of the same stitch, turning again, pull on the stitch marker and slip stitch into that third loop, finding the next stitch like here, another 3 single, and we repeat this a few more times. So we've got 5 butt stitches all together, always with 3 single crochet in between. So I will continue, and if you want you can either skip ahead a little bit or you just join me in making them as we go. 2 more single crochet in the same stitch, finding the front loop, turning the work, 4 single crochet in the front loop of the same stitch, turning the work, close with a slip stitch, find the next stitch, from this 3 single crochet. So this is our 4th rosebud or butt stitch. Single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch, mark with a stitch marker, 2 more single crochet in the same back loop, find the front loop, turn the work, get them way on. 4 single crochet in the front loop only, turning the work, close with a slip stitch, find the next stitch, 3 more, 3 single crochet, and you see we've got 4, so this is our 5th butt stitch or rosebud. Mark with a stitch marker, 2 more single crochet in the same back loop, find the front loop, turn the work, 4 single crochet in the front loop only of the same stitch, continue to turn, find the third loop, close with a slip stitch, find the next single crochet or find the next stitch, and from this we'll make 5 single crochet now. We'll make 6 single crochet, and then we work, we keep it in this free front loop here, which may or may not be marked on your project. So we'll make a DC, single DC combination, and by now you know for sure that we always skip the stitch behind those DCs, so that would be this one. And we continue from here with 5 DC now, 5 single crochet now, 3, 4, 5, and the 5th brings you to the top of this double crochet. And again, we may or may not have marked this free front loop here with a stitch marker that is between those double crochet from the previous round. In this free front loop we work the small rows, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same front loop, chain 1, and a third double crochet in the same front loop, and pull up the loop, close it, and then close with a chain 1. Need even more yarn. So this round is quite yarn intense, while some others are not that bad. Then we skip the stitch behind this small rows and we start to work in the next stitch, and then 3 single crochet, and then we are here again at the top of those double crochet of this double crochet from the previous round. Again, we work the small rows, double in the free front loop, chain 1, double in the free front loop, chain 1, and then third double crochet. Pull up the loop, let the hook go, insert in the first, pull through and close with a chain. Let me just get rid of those 2 stitch markers already. Then we skip the stitch behind the small rows, which is this one, and the next stitch, and it's easy to find, is the top of the double crochet, and from here we make 3 single crochet, and a third time DC, chain 1, DC, chain 1, DC, all in the same front loop, all DCs in the same front loop. We pull and we close. Skip the stitch behind, and from the next we only work 2 now, 2 single crochet, and now we've got the treble or double treble, if that works better for you, on the other side of the treble. You see in the beginning I worked this treble on this side, on the side where I'm working. In the end I'm going to insert the hook so that the treble will be anchored also on this side, not on that side. So that the treble is anchored on the same side in which we just worked. Then we skip the stitch behind the treble, and our last stitch again is a single crochet in the back loop only. And I just want to show you how to continue with this front post DC corner. It's actually the same as we did in the beginning. So we work a single crochet in that chain 1 space, we chain 1, then we work the front post double crochet, chain 1 again, and now again we find that chain 1 space and we work a single crochet into that chain 1 space. So exactly as we did on this side here. Okay, so that is the first side of round 37 done. It may take a little bit longer because of those rosebuds, but you saw that it is actually not that bad. It can be quite quick. So for stitch marker placement, we're going to place a stitch marker in the first stitch that we made here on the side after the corner, and in the last stitch, that free front loop here. Yep. So now all you have to do is to repeat it on the other 3 sides and then close with a slip stitch in this first single crochet here of that starting corner, and then you're done with round 37, and we'll meet in the next round 38. Welcome to round 23. We start the round with a normal corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the chain 2 corner space, and our first stitch is again a single crochet, and then we work a spike stitch in the corner again. So we're starting a new set of those double spikes in the corner. We'll leave one corner out and we just work in the next corner. Technically that is a spike stitch -1, -2. We go 1 behind of the next stitch, which is this one, and then 2 rounds down. 1, 2. So we're here in this corner. Now we work 3 single crochet, and the first of those 3 goes into that spike stitch from the previous round. And then we have a treble, a front post treble, -1, -2. We go 1 back and 2 down, 1, 2. That is the DC that we made in the round before. We skip the stitch behind that treble and we work 1 single crochet. So the next single crochet is worked in the spike stitch here. And now we work a spike stitch in the same stitch here where we also already have those 2 split spikes, and we work another split spike, and we now just pull a little bit higher. So this one's a little bit longer because it's an additional round here. And from here we work 3 single crochet, and we do the same again. We work a split spike in the same stitch that already contains those other 2 split spike stitches from the previous round. Now we've got 5 single crochet. Oops. Single crochet in the back loop only, and then 3 single crochet. And the third single crochet should bring you to the top of that DC from the previous round. Now we're working a treble in that same front loop that already contains those 2 double crochets. And then again, skip the stitch behind that treble and 3 single crochet in the back loop only, and 5 single crochet. Then that should bring you to the top of this split spike, and we're working a spike stitch in the same stitch as before. Just pull up a little bit higher because we've got an extra round to cover. 3 single crochet, another spike, one single crochet, and then a front post treble around this DC here. Now, so that's +1 -2. Skip the stitch behind this front post treble, 3 single crochet, the spike stitch into the corner, so leave one out, work in the next, and finishing off with 1 single crochet. And here we are in the corner. So that's it. Pretty simple, pretty quick. Just repeat on the other 3 sides, close the round with a slip stitch, and then we'll be together for round 24. Alright, let's have a look at round 39, which starts quite harmless, but it has a few tricky passages. So let's just go through it. We chain 1 at the beginning of the round, then a single crochet, chain 1, a front post DC around the front post DC from the previous round, another chain 1, and then the single crochet into the chain 1 corner space. So now let's begin the side. So we start with 8 single crochet, which is easy enough. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we make a single crochet in the back loop, and this single crochet in the back loop should be in the middle of those 3 stitches between those small roses here, which means that the second of the 3 single crochet we're going to make should be directly above this small rose. So 3 single crochet, and then we're making another single crochet in the back loop only. And you can really check your placement. If you are in the middle stitch of those 3 between the small rows, that's correct. So another 3 single crochet, and 1 more single crochet in the back loop only. Now we're going to make 6 single crochet, of which the 3rd should be in the top loop here, and that's a good way to check as well. 4, 5, and 6. Great. Because I've once, for example, skipped 2 stitches behind this one, and I was wondering why my stitch count was off. So always good to check, and the chart is a great tool to help you see where your stitches should be. Okay, so now you should be 1 stitch before this double treble here, and we're going to make a double treble, and that's a +4 -1, which means we go 4 stitches ahead and 1 stitch down. So starting to count from this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches is this one where we may have placed a stitch marker in the top loop of the treble that we made, and we just make that double treble. Okay, now we have to pay attention. We just worked this special stitch, which means we skip this stitch. Okay, this would usually be our next stitch, but we're going to work a DCBB into these 3 front loops. So we go behind all those stitches and we work a DCBB, a double crochet behind and below the next stitch. And now the tricky part. So we skip this stitch because we made the special stitch here, and we have to skip this stitch as well because we made the DCBB behind it. So it will look like we're skipping 2 stitches, and the next stitch will be a single crochet in the stitch after this double treble here, and we'll make 2 of those single crochet, and that brings you to the first of those trebles that we made in the previous round. Behind this one we're going to work a DCBB again, but we don't finish it because we're not now going to make another special stitch, which is the 2 together C. And this means we start with a DCBB leg, and the second leg is a double treble, so we yarn over 3 times of the stitch that is 4 ahead. This is the next stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the double treble that we made in the previous round, and it has a stitch marker in it. So we work in those loops here, just one round below. Pull through all 3. And now we skip this treble and we work behind here. So the next stitch goes into this single crochet. You see there are 3 single crochet between the treble and the double treble, and we work a single crochet in each of those stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do the same again. We work a double crochet leg behind the next double treble from the previous round. Then we yarn over 3 times for a double treble leg, which we're going to place into the top loops of that double treble. And that's the last on this side. You know, we have those rosebuds where we don't have the trellises here, and this is the last of those on this side. So we place our double treble leg in that stitch, and then we yarn over through all 3 loops, and again we work a single crochet in each of those 3 single crochets from the previous round. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's twice that 2 together C, and now we're going to work a double crochet DCBB behind this double treble here from the previous round. That's the last of this group here from this trellis. Okay, then 3 single crochet, and this is the second is our center stitch. It's in the middle, in the center of the side, and 1 more. And now again we're going to work a DCBB, a double crochet behind and below the double treble from the previous round. There we go. And then 3 single crochet. You skip the double treble, which is now in the front, and you work 3 single crochet. Okay, so now we're going to make the 2 together D. For that, our first leg, it's a mirror of what we did on this side. Our first leg goes 4 stitches behind, counting from the next, which is the top loop of the double treble behind which we just made the DCBB. So we go into those loops here. 1, 2, 3. We still have 2 loops on the hook, and now we work the DC leg behind the next double treble here. DC, and then go through all 3 stitches. And we do that again. So we work 3 single crochet, then our first leg of the 2 together D is the double treble leg that goes back 4 stitches, counting from the next stitch. So we work the double treble part, the double treble leg, and then we yarn over for the double crochet leg, which goes behind this treble from the previous round. And yarn over through all 3. Okay, now we work 2 single crochet, and then we are at this stitch here, and we work a DCBB, a double crochet behind and below this stitch. And now we're going to mirror this one, the double treble -4 -1. So we go 4 stitches back with a double treble leg into the top loop of this treble here. Top loops in both, we go in both. And that's the double treble -4 -1, because we're 1 round below. So now we need to remember we have to skip this stitch here, these loops, because we made a DCBB behind those stitches. We also have to skip this stitch because we made this double treble -4 -1 just now. Okay, our next stitch will be the first of 2 single crochet. We'll go into this stitch, and you can check that you are at the right place, because it should be one before this treble from the previous round. Okay, let's just do that. So 1, and we're making 6 single crochet. 2, so the second goes into this treble. 3, and the fourth goes into the top loops of this front post. 4, we've got 2 more, 5 and 6. So the single crochet in back loop that we're now making, oops, there we are, should be just 1 before the rows, so the before the one that's above the rows. So we make 1, 2, and the second of those single crochets should be above this small rows, and 3. So when we make another single crochet in the back loop only now, that should be in the middle stitch of those 3 single crochets that are between those small roses. Hope you can see that. And again, 1, 2, 3, and the single crochet in the back loop only, which again should be the second of those, or the center stitch of those 3 between the small rows. And the second of the last 8 single crochet that we're now making should be directly above the last small rows. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Whew, lucky. Okay, and then we are in the corner, single chain 1, front post DC. Let's just leave it at that for this side of the corner. Great. So now for a stitch marker placement. Let's have a look. We're going to place, I hope I've got enough. No, not quite. Get some more. So we place a stitch marker in each of those 3 front loops from the beginning. Oops, sorry, I'm not centered. And the end here. So we are between those small roses. We're also going to place, I've used up my green ones, sorry, this should be green actually. I'm using these for now. Putting in the top loops of the double treble +4 -4 that we made, and also in the top loop of the double treble -4. So that was the first and the last in this area here, the single stitch, not a two-legged stitch. So that's it for round 39. Just remember, in this round, very important to skip this in front of the DCBB and the next one that is behind this double treble, in this case -4, -1, and also here. So we first make this stitch, then we make the double treble on this side, the DCBB, sorry. So we skip this stitch and this, and then we work only 2, whereas between those we work 3 single crochet. Just be aware of that, and then you'll be right. It will all be fine and work out well. So repeat this on the other 3 sides, and again, of course, close your round with a slip stitch into the single crochet that you made into that chain 1 corner space, and then we'll be ready for the last round in this part of the tutorial, because as the rounds get longer and longer, I want to break it up so that the videos don't go forever and ever and ever. So I will have 5 rows for each of those parts in part 3. So there will be part 3.1, part 3.2, and a part 3.3. Okay, and I'll see you for our last round, round 40 in 3.1. Our final round in part 3.1, where we start with chain 1, so round 40, and then we work a single crochet into that chain 1 corner space, chain 1, a front post DC around the front post DC from the previous round, chain 1, and then again a single crochet in the chain 1 corner space here. And we start the round then with 1 single crochet, and then we're working around this DC in front loop that we made 2 rounds earlier. We work a treble, and to be precise, is a treble plus 1 minus 2. So 1 stitch ahead and 2 rounds below. We skip the stitch behind this treble, and we'll make 3 single crochet. Now again we work a front post treble. This time it's going to be around this long treble that we made into that corner space here. So that's this stitch here. It's a plus 1 minus 3, so it's one stitch ahead and 3 rounds below. Again, we skip the stitch behind this one here, the one we just made. We'll make 2 single crochet, and again we make our famous combination of double crochet, back loop, double crochet, where the double crochet goes into the front loop, and I've just unmarked it with that stitch marker. That is 2 rounds below and 1 stitch ahead. So it's DC plus 1 minus 2. Then we skip back to the current row, or 1 round below, where we'll make a single crochet in the back loop, and then again a DC in the same front loop as before. That's then a minus 1 minus 2 in front loop. We skip the stitch behind this DC as well, and then we have 1 single crochet, and now we repeat. We do this 3 times. Single DC, back loop, DC, 1 single crochet. So I've just skipped the stitches behind those DCs. And we do it 1 more time. So that's the 3rd time. DC, double crochet, in front loop, single crochet in back loop only, double crochet in the same front loop, skipping the stitches behind the double crochets that we make. And then 1 single crochet, and at the third time we just add 2 more single crochet. So now we're going to close this round here, and for that we have 2 legs. The first leg is a front post treble, front post treble -2 -2, so 2 stitches back and 2 rounds below. And the next leg is a front post double treble, which means 3 times yarn over, and it goes into the around the leg 3 ahead and 2 rounds below. That's this one. And then we go through all 3 loops here. We skip this stitch behind, which is exactly above this treble that we made earlier, and from here we make 1 single crochet. Now you see we are behind this double treble +4 -1 from the previous round, and behind this we work a DCBB. So we skipped 1 stitch and we just work in those loops, the loops of this stitch that we skipped. From here we work 27 single crochet, and what you can do, let's just make the first 3, 2, 3, and then I can show you what I mean. If you want this, you don't have to, only if you want to anchor this stitch a little bit more, instead of going only through these 2 loops, you can go through these and the 2 loops that lie directly below them. So that will anchor the stitch a little bit more. And then another 3, and then again the 8th. So that's the 4th and the 8th. Then we have a bunch of stitches. The next is the 20th. 9, 10, 17, 18, 19, and the 20th. It's the same, so we can do the same. Either you just work into those 2 normal loops, or you include the 2 loops that lie directly below them. Let me see if I can show you a bit better. There we are. So it's 4 loops altogether, and that is the 20th of those single crochet and the 24th as well. Okay, and then we have 3 more stitches to go to make our 27 single crochet. And then we're here again behind this double treble -4 -1 from the previous round, and we just work into those loops of the stitch that we that we skipped behind this special stitch. And then 1 single crochet, and now we're going to close the gap on this side. And on this side we're going to make the front post double treble leg first. So yarn over 3 times for the double treble. 1, 2, 3, and then the second leg is the front post treble leg. 1, 2, and go through all 3. Then again we skip the stitch behind, which is again exactly above this treble here that we made between the DCs, and then we work 3 single crochet. Oops, a little bit more yarn. So that's 1, 2, 3. And from here, you've noticed that we're already going in backwards in the pattern again, or in the mirror part of the pattern. So we make the DC, back loop, DC combination. Always skipping the stitches behind the DCs. One single. Do this 3 times. DC, back loop, DC, single. Notice that I've skipped the stitches. And the 3rd time, well, skip the stitches behind the DC. DC, skip, back loop, DC, skip, single, and we add one more single here at the end of this repeat. Now we're going to work around this long front post treble. We'll make a +1 -3, front post treble, +1 -3. Skip the stitch behind the stitch, 3 single. And now we work around this DC here. Sorry, a front post treble. Front post treble, and we skip the stitch behind the front post treble, and we finish the side with 1 single crochet, and then we are in the corner, single crochet, chain 1, front post, DC, and then the rest on the other side. Okay, stitch mark placement, stitch marker placement. We can just reuse the stitch markers that we've taken out from here, if that's something that you would like to do. And we place them in those 3 front loops between the double crochet that we made, those 3 DC back loop DC groups that we have at the end, and also here at the beginning. So 1, 2, sometimes they do annoy me, the stitch markers, but generally I like to say stitch markers are your friend. And you know that I always say that. They are your friend, they can be very helpful and make your life much easier. Okay, so that's round 40. You just have to repeat this on the other 3 sides and then close with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of this corner, as always. And then your round 40 is done. So you're 1/3 into part 3 already. I will be making a little video too to walk you through Claire and what the 3 parts stand for and the meaning behind it as well in a separate video. Otherwise this will get just too long. And you will notice that, of course, this is part 3 is our busiest part. We do many of those butt stitches, we do the small roses, we will be doing big roses. There is a lot going on, also like those flowery parts that we're going to close even more. And we're also starting new ones. As you can see here, we're starting leaves and all that. So that's all happening in part 3. So this is the main part of the story, and I'm going to walk you through on the finished Claire. Until then, I see you in part 3 too.